Welcome back to the archive, students of the Force. We have been waiting for you. Luke loved and cared for Obi-Wan Kenobi greatly. Calling him Ben Kenobi for most of his life, grew up knowing the hermit as both a cocky old man in the Judland wastes and as something of a distant grandfather figure. Ben would be the one to introduce Luke to the Force, to set him on the path of becoming a Jedi Knight. And even though their training only lasted a handful of days, Luke Skywalker still revered Obi-Wan as one of his greatest teachers. However, he would go on to consider Yoda to be his actual, official Jedi Master. And according to the old EU novels, he may have believed that Yoda in general was a better Jedi Master than Obi-Wan. While this makes sense in terms of years of experience and the difference between the two of them, there is actually a much deeper reason that Luke preferred Yoda as a teacher instead of Ben Kenobi. So join us today as we open a special holocron and dive into the secret thoughts of Luke Skywalker once again. We need to make something clear. We aren't calling Obi-Wan a bad Jedi Master, and neither would Luke. Obi-Wan was dealt a very bad hand in the beginning of having the position of a master thrust upon him by the death of his own master in Qui-Gon Jinn. There was still a lot of learning whenever he was teaching Anakin, and even after Obi-Wan attained the rank of a Jedi Master, there was a lot about the Force that he did not know. However, a lot of the problems with his teaching style came in the form of his overly critical mentor style, something that Anakin reacted very poorly with. His whole life, Obi-Wan was a very by-the-books Jedi. He clashed with the freedom-loving Qui-Gon Jinn and the young, rebellious, powerful Anakin. We see in Attack of the Clones how Obi-Wan first resorts to dealing with Anakin's mistakes, to berate and to lecture him. At this point in time, this was when Obi-Wan believed that a master's duty was to teach them through words and explanations, to help make their student as wise as powerful, the way that he had been taught at the Jedi Temple. But this is an imperfect teaching style, especially for Anakin. It would take Obi-Wan years to learn that Anakin learned much better through action, which led Obi-Wan to teaching through example rather than lectures. It would be this eventual change in style that would break their contention, and would forge a brotherly bond that we see them having in the Clone War. True allies in the Force rather than enemies of philosophy. But Obi-Wan still indulged in a good lecture of Anakin more often than not. But despite his efforts at garnering a close relationship with Skywalker, Obi-Wan didn't make himself emotionally available. Growing up in the Jedi Temple away from civilization and all life made the concepts of a family bond foreign to that of Obi-Wan. When Anakin had a problem, his advice was usually be mindful of your feelings, and Obi-Wan said little else. Anakin stopped trusting his master with his personal problems and emotions after that, and soon, Obi-Wan could sense the knots in Anakin's soul forming. He chose to let them go about though, unspoken. He learned before that pressuring Anakin into opening up was not the right thing to do, but because of this, Obi-Wan abandoned trying to reach Anakin on a deeper level altogether. This was made even worse when he suspected that Padme and Anakin were in a relationship, and he chose to protect his friend through silence. The two never spoke of this relationship, though they each had a silent understanding. But the real fracture in their friendship, both of this emotional silence, came from Anakin's slaughter of the Tusken Raiders and his change after this. Obi-Wan constantly wondered and worried about the events surrounding Shmi Skywalker's death, but he never sought to extract the truth from Anakin, who was clearly torn up and broken about it on the inside. Obi-Wan was legitimately afraid of how Anakin would react. This lack of an emotional connection between the two of them left Anakin in need of a father figure, someone who would validate his feelings, driving him right into the arms of Palpatine. And of course, the rest of the dominoes will fall in time. But we've been talking a lot about Anakin. In the EU novel Jedi Search, Luke Skywalker was pulling together several prospective students to form his Jedi Academy. While intimidated at the prospect of teaching others in the ways of the Force, Luke was eager to restart the Jedi. However, one piece of anxiety lingered deep within his mind. Luke was terrified of one of his students falling to the dark side. He didn't let his worry overcome his desire to teach, but it did stick with him every step of the way. The biggest reason for this was Obi-Wan Kenobi, as great of a teacher as Luke saw him as, he recognized that Anakin had become Lord Vader, and that he had done so under the watch of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Not only that, but Luke knew from experience that Obi-Wan had a bad habit, a habit of keeping secrets and telling half-truths or even outright lies in order to protect his students, when of course he was wrong. Luke had struggled to forgive Obi-Wan for lying about his father. He didn't see Obi-Wan's certain point of view at all. He didn't believe it was helpful, and resented how Obi-Wan had covered up the truth. Luke was aware of what Obi-Wan said about his own protection, but he also admitted that he never asked for or wanted that protection. It didn't take long for Luke to realize that these sorts of habits were probably what caused his father to fall to the dark side. Mistakes in Obi-Wan's teaching. By contrast, shockingly, Yoda being the harsher teacher, Luke had less problems with. The only issue he took with the Grand Master was his doctrine on attachment, and how he viewed the Jedi Code. Luke interpreted the Jedi Code differently, and believed that love empowered the Jedi when they were not shackled by fear, loss, or jealousy. Luke was not afraid of falling to the dark side over the ones that he loved, and indeed found strength from them. But that was the only point of disagreement that the two Jedi had. Luke found Yoda to be more forthcoming than Obi-Wan, not sheltering of the truth, but encouraging him to seek the truth with caution. Yoda characterizes this when Luke feels the coldness from the dark side cave of Dagobah. Yoda did not shout at him to get away from it. Instead, Yoda encouraged his student to go in and explore the cave, but with the only stipulation that he should leave his weapons behind. Luke ignored this final instruction, but ended up paying the price for it. The vision in the cave was punishment for not heeding Yoda's advice, allowing him to learn Yoda's wisdom by example. And Luke continued to doubt his own abilities on Dagobah. Yoda taught him anything is possible through the Force. The point being, nothing with Yoda was ever hidden from Luke. It was the opposite. Yoda revealed secrets to Luke. In the end, it was more than him just having spent time with Yoda more than he did with Obi-Wan. He felt more of a connection with Yoda as his pure Jedi Master. And while it was completely true that personality-wise, Luke got on far better with Obi-Wan, he did believe Yoda to be the greater instructor. And if Luke Skywalker was going to be the new Grand Master of the Jedi Order, he wanted to learn from the Grand Master. He was taught by Yoda to embrace the clarity of the Force. It goes to show that in exile, Yoda and Obi-Wan learned very different lessons. Obi-Wan thought that he had done more to protect Anakin from the horrors of the galaxy, then things would not have turned out so badly. He even attempted to do this with Luke, saying, "I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost Vader." Obi-Wan internalized his shame. He tried to make up with it with Luke. But Yoda learned to put away his shame, to move beyond it, as a great teacher. He learned that holding students back only caused them to become frustrated. His advice to Luke was to not underestimate the powers of the Emperor, and to take with him everything that he had learned. In the books though, despite Luke Skywalker's best efforts, his Jedi would fall to the dark side under his watch. But many wouldn't. Many would hold strong to the code. Two of these Jedi though happened within mere months of Luke opening his Jedi Academy on Yavin 4. Though this dark turn was ushered in by the influence of Exar Kun's spirit. We plan on making a full video soon talking about Gantoris, one of Luke Skywalker's greatest failures as a Jedi Master, and how Luke dealt with his own student falling to the dark side. It'll be interesting especially how critical Luke was of Obi-Wan. And so, this was why Luke thought that Yoda was a much better teacher and a much better Jedi Master than Obi-Wan Kenobi was, even though he still loved, admired, and respected Obi-Wan a great deal. So tell us, what do you think about this? We love to see Luke honor both of his teachers, but acknowledge their faults at the same time, to seek to rise above them, as failure, even of others, is the greatest teacher. Luke is humbled that he refuses to think of himself as better than his teachers were in any way, but wise enough to take their teachings and to fix their mistakes. I like getting into Luke's perspective of the old Jedi way. Luke looks at them from a completely fresh and a new perspective. The Jedi of the old era are gone, and it's now his job to reconstruct them, so he takes that job very seriously. But now, fellow scholars of the Force, please drop your own comments and insights down below, and we will add them to the archives. The archives doors are always open and ever at your disposal any time of day or night. May the Force guide you always in your journey. As you leave these hallowed halls of wisdom, carry the knowledge and serenity that you have gained here as a light in the galaxy. Remember, every step you take is a thread of the greater tapestry of the Force. Trust in yourself. Remain steadfast in the face of challenge. And know that the archives and their guardians will always welcome you back should you seek more counsel or knowledge. Go forth with hope and purpose, and may the Force be with you.